Welcome to Your Life and Legacy. I'm your host, Christopher Nudo, and today's conversation is all about influence, how the choices we make every day shape the world around us, whether we realize it or not. My guest is Risha Grant, a best-selling author, international keynote speaker, and one of the top 10 most powerful women leaders in HR. Through her powerful, no-nonsense approach, Risha helps global brands like Google, T-Mobile, and Procter & Gamble transform their culture by helping their people be better than their BS. Her book, Be Better Than Your BS, became a Wall Street Journal and USA Today bestseller because it doesn't just challenge organizations, it transforms people from the inside out. Risha, welcome to Your Life and Legacy. Start with the foundation, if you wouldn't mind. What does it really mean to create a culture through our daily choices?
For me, it means that we as individual people are doing the work to become aware of how we show up, right? Our personal culture is what I call it. How do you show up in any room? What's the vibe you bring in? What's the impact that you leave behind? If we truly focus on how we're showing up, not just for others, but also for ourselves, we truly begin to transform culture. Because as much as culture is about shared beliefs and values, you have to carry those things within you first. So a company can have the best policies and procedures in the world. If their people don't show up wanting to be better, wanting to show up for their team, wanting to show up for the company and create the goals, then they're not really building a culture that people can thrive in and the culture that they want to stay in. So it's all about you personally.
So I love that. Tell me a little bit about, give me an example of somebody showing up. What does that show up look like? And I'm sure it's different in all different circumstances, but give us a couple examples.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of people in our offices, really just in our lives, right? You have the people that speak a whole lot. I don't care if it's a meeting, you have a couple of people dominating that meeting. And a way that in which you can show up in that scenario is that the more introverted person, or maybe they're just really quiet, is that you can speak for them and saying, hey, Chris, you shared an idea with me earlier today that I thought was great. Do you mind sharing it with the group, or do you mind if I share it for you? Because sometimes people just have trouble speaking in front of other people. So if you can show up in that way, maybe it's just that you smile and you show kindness. I cannot tell you how many people in my work say, I think that people in the office, my manager, like nobody likes me simply because they don't smile. They don't say hello. They don't ask how we're doing. And you would think at the ages that we are, that it wouldn't be that important, but it is super important. So you can show up with kindness, with compassion, with empathy, with understanding, with not allowing other people in that same environment to bring the environment down or bring certain people down. You have to realize that you can be talking to somebody on the worst day of their life. We have no idea what's going on with each other. But if we show up with all the things that make people smile, make people feel seen, valued, and heard, you can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, that's so true. And that is fantastic. So my question for you is, you bring up the fact that, we could be talking to somebody on the worst day of their life and we don't even know it. And like you said, if we show up with that smile, that could at least improve the day, maybe not fix it. But how it sounds like your job is really helping educate and train people, not only to see other people, but to recognize who they are and make sure that, so it's twofold, right? See other people and understand them, and then be your best when you show up. How do you do that in an organization? Say there's an organization of, thousands, because you've worked with rather big organizations. How do you get down to the personal level?
Yeah, that is always an issue because, of course, managers say, Risha, I have 500 people underneath me. There's no way for me to know them all. And my answer to that is, even if it takes you 2 years and you spend 15 minutes with each person, I think that's important to do. The other thing is, if you show up the same for everybody, You can't be nice to this person over here because you like them better. Maybe there are things that you have in common. And I know that's easy to do. I love sports, love basketball. Anybody talking about basketball, I naturally am going to gravitate to them. We're probably going to have great conversations. We're going to have fun talking about the game the night before. It doesn't mean that that person next to them that cares nothing about sports, that I shouldn't interact with them and I shouldn't try to find some commonality. So I think that it's simple if you keep it the same with everybody. And my thing is I show kindness to everybody. It's that simple. If I walk past your desk and you have a picture of your kid or your spouse or partner, whatever it is, I always try to find something that I can say, wow, that's a beautiful picture. Or, hey, I read that book that I see on your desk. Or, something. I'm going to try to find that commonality. But if nothing else, I'm just going to say, how's your day going?
Yeah.
Or how can I help you? Is there anything that I can do to make your job easier or make your life easier? I'm going to ask those questions. It does not have to be a whole hour meeting with people. Just showing people that you care takes a couple of seconds.
Yeah, even recognizing people is a big thing. And I loved how you said smile, because just a simple smile is a connection point between people. It's unfortunate in today's society, some people will measure who smiles first. Well, they didn't smile at me, so I didn't smile at them. And so, I love your approach that let's be the ones that learn to smile first and make that connection point.
And you know what, Chris, I've even been that person where I'm like, you know what, I keep saying hello and people don't answer me back. I say good morning. It really does get under my skin, right? And I will just, good morning. Nobody says anything. I'm like, good morning, so like I'll force you to say good morning to me. But then I realized again, this person could be having the worst day of their life. So I did my part. I said good morning. I said hello. And 9 times out of 10, people are going to say it back. And I really challenge myself when there's somebody that makes me uncomfortable. Maybe it's something about that person that makes me uncomfortable. Maybe it's a bias playing out in my head that makes me uncomfortable. But if that's the case, that's where I really dig in. And I'll say, hello, how's your day going? Are you having a good day? Out in an elevator, especially, you get on the elevator with people and you're just like, maybe there's a vibe they're putting off. But when I do that, I get such a positive response. I mean, there are some people that won't answer me, but for the most part, everybody engages in a quick conversation. We spend 30 seconds together, but I feel better getting off that elevator and I hope they do too.
Right. And you connected with somebody that's probably from a different office, a different floor, a different lifestyle. But now the next time you get on the elevator, there's that connection.
Exactly. So there's always something to comment on.
One thing that I run into a lot is, you have these crazy morning people, that would be me. But by 3:00 in the afternoon, I'm thinking nap or something. But yet this is when, the other half of the world is hitting stride, right? Because when I'm all cheery in the morning, good morning, they're like a little easy on that. Good morning, please. So how do you help people, help them recognize that not everybody's running at the same schedule you are?
Well, it's getting outside of yourself, right? Getting outside of my own BS. And I think that's super important that we realize that people are running races and living lives that we are not living. So to your point, if you're a morning person and I'm a late afternoon person, that takes adjustment on both sides. So while I know Chris is a morning person, so I may say hello to Chris. I'm not probably gonna just be very excited about it. But then Chris knows I'm an afternoon person, so Chris can take that time to really, talk to me in the afternoon. If it's something important and you know that about me, you'd be better off waiting until the afternoon. I may not, really understand what you're saying at 7:00 in the morning. So I think it's just realizing that we're all living different lives and there has to be affect that.
And you bring up a good point, is for you to even know that I'm a morning person and for me to know you're an afternoon person requires that we already have had a conversation. And so, right. So for the business owners out there, how can they really be intentional about really developing and modifying the culture within their business?
I think you have to first understand what your culture is. One thing that has not failed me in these 27 years of business is when I talk to the employees, they have a totally different perspective than the leaders. So it's important to get on the same page. You know, typically leaders see it through rose-colored glasses and they're saying, we have an amazing culture. People love it here. And it doesn't mean that they don't, maybe they it's really making it difficult for them to come to work and do the job that they need to do. So and do a honest, let's figure out if this culture is actually what you think it is. 100% it has not been. What those things are. Why trust each other? Why can't we meet the goals? To the human factor, right? Somebody's very rude. Somebody it's not taking the time to and the best way that I work. When you're on a team, everybody has a role, and you have to understand how those roles work independently and how those roles work together. And if you can understand that, you have a much better chance of meshing that team together. So it's really important to understand those roles, and then what is it that we need to accomplish together. You would not believe how many people are trying to accomplish different things on the same team. So you got to get on the same page.
Right, right, exactly. That's an excellent summary. I love that, Risha. Thank you so much. Coming up next, Risha will talk about how authenticity, while being real with yourself and others, might just be the key to building lasting connections. Stay with us. Welcome back to Your Life and Legacy. Want more of what you're watching? Stay connected to Your Life and Legacy and every Now Media TV favorite, live and on demand, anytime you'd like. Download the free Now Media app or on Roku or iOS to unlock nonstop bilingual programming in English and Spanish. On the move? You can also watch the podcast version right from your website at nowmedia.tv. From business and news to lifestyle, culture, and beyond, Now Media TV is streaming around the clock, ready whenever and wherever you are. Welcome back. I'm here with Risha Grant, and in this segment, we're giving ourselves permission to be real. We live in a world where people feel pressure to hide behind perfection. But as Risha often says, authenticity isn't just free, it's foundational to building real trust and connection. This segment focuses on how authenticity helps people connect, lead, and heal. It examines how removing the mask of performance creates space for the true community and legacy. Risha, what a fantastic leadway. I love authenticity. I love real. Can you unpack exactly how this fits into your culture, into the culture that you're trying to transform for these companies?
Yeah, definitely. If people can't show up as who they are, just on even the most basic level, how can you expect them to do the job that they're there to do? And there are a lot of people that go to work with what I call the whole suit of armor, right? Where they're trying to deflect all of the BS coming at them. You know, you might have the person who just doesn't respect who you are. They don't like your lifestyle. They may not like the way you smell or the way you wear your hair, right? There's something that maybe that person is doing on a daily basis. You may just have the person that shuts down every idea that you have. Whatever it is, when you have to mask and you can't show up as you can't be real about who you love, who you date, who you When I say that, I know people are thinking this is work, who cares? The reason it matters is that when you're in that environment and everybody else is being able to be free, it causes you to be a liar, to hide inside yourself about who you are. So when you can just show up, do you, hey, this is what I did on the weekend. We had a great time. We don't have to agree about those things. It's not your responsibility to agree, but you also don't have to bash my lived experience. So I think when people can show up as who they are, they can perform better. And there are actually studies that show that morale is better, productivity is higher, right? And we're actually crushing and meeting those goals simply because I get to show up as me.
So I agree 1000% with you. And I want to show up as me, and I want to live my life out loud and just be who I am and not wear a mask to work and all this armor to protect myself. But Risha, my coworkers, they're going to continue to judge me now, because now they're really going to know the ugliness of me and the things that I like. And, I was just trying to fit in by being more like them, and I'm really not like them. So how am I supposed to really be authentic in that environment?
Well, I believe that's where leadership has to step in. Leadership has to step in and make sure that the culture that they're creating allows you to be who you are. So if you have somebody, even if that somebody is a manager and they're degrading you every day simply because of who you are, there should be some type of feedback channel. There should be some type of internal system that will allow you to go and say, this is happening to me on a daily basis. And it be taken seriously. Let's find out what's happening. And I know that's difficult for people listening to this and saying, well, it's my boss, and there's a power dynamic there. But if your boss is the top of the food chain there, and you know that it's going to make your life harder, in all reality, you may have to find somewhere else to work. And I don't say that lightly, because I know how difficult it is to find a job, especially now, or change or, move companies. I don't say that lightly. So I say, do everything that you can do, document everything. But it is up to leadership to want to create a culture where everybody thrives.
I 100% agree. And I like the way you said sometimes change is necessary. And, agreed. Sometimes finding the right fit is the freedom that you need. But changing jobs is scary. Health insurance plays a role. The amount of money you plays a role. The amount of influence you have at the company plays a role. And but if you can't, if you come home every evening and you're not yourself, I'm guessing that also then goes into your social life and goes into everything, because you can't just be one person at work and somebody else in the rest of your life, can you? I mean, no.
I tried that, and I can say that with much conviction that it made me, I was mistreating myself. Here I am trying to make all these other people happy that I don't know very well. I may have worked with them for a while, but I don't know them very well. And I'm trying to make them comfortable at the expense of how I'm treating me. And that is not something that I would trade again for anything else, anything in this world.
I congratulate you for that, because I can see it freeing, which leads me to my next question is, really, when we change, we stop pretending, right? We stop being somebody that we think others want us to be, and we just become ourselves. How does that really, what are the positive impacts that has on a culture?
Oh man, everybody is happy, at least from a work perspective. You don't have to walk into this place and feel like, I got to stay in this little compartment. I got to stay in this space. You get to go in there, you get to be you, and you get to do the job that presumably you want to do. And so I think it's freeing in so many ways. Not only that, other people, when they see you being yourself, it allows them to be their self as well. I think we get caught up in this, oh, if I don't say anything about the way you dress, about the way you talk, about the way you live, who you live with, then I'm agreeing with your lifestyle. And no, that's called minding your own business. I cannot agree with your lifestyle and still embrace your humanity. And
That's right.
that's the thing that I feel like we are so far away from right now is I can see the humanity in you and I can be all the things that I need to be for that without saying I agree with what you do after 5. Because it really has nothing to do with me unless you're hurting somebody. That's different. But I just on that basic general level.
I love how you bridge that too. Because you're recognizing people for being people and for their authenticness. But that doesn't mean that you have to either become them or embrace them or subscribe to their way of being. But you just have to treat them like the people they are.
That's it. It's so simple. Things that we learned when we were 5 years old.
Right. But I'm not even sure I did it right at 5. Risha.
Wish you had an excuse for being 5, right?
Exactly. So your message really is a breath of fresh air. And I know that our viewers are going to want to get to know you better and learn more about you. Where is it that they can find you, look you up, get to know you better? Where are those connection points?
You can find me all over social media at Risha Grant. It's really simple. My website is rishagrant.com. So I'm really easy to find. My books are both on Amazon. So it's not hard. If you spell my name right, you'll find me.
That's fantastic. And I'm sure they're going to look you up. So when we come back, we're going to talk about the power of kindness and how small acts really can ripple and transform the entire culture within a company. Welcome back to Your Life and Legacy. Don't miss a second of this show or any Now Media TV favorite, streaming live and on demand, wherever and wherever you want. Grab the free Now Media TV app on Roku or iOS and enjoy instant access to our lineup of bilingual programs in both English and Spanish. Prefer podcast? Who doesn't? Listen to Your Life and Legacy anytime on Now Media TV website at nowmedia.tv. Covering business, breaking news, lifestyle, culture, and more, Now Media TV is available 24/7, so the stories you care about are always within reach. Welcome back to Your Life and Legacy. I'm your host, Christopher Nudo, and I'm joined right now with Risha Grant, and we're talking about the power of kindness. How small intentional acts create waves of change beyond what we can see. In a world that often rewards competition over compassion, kindness might just be the ultimate leadership tool. This segment explores how kindness serves as a catalyst for trust, empathy, and belonging, and how it becomes part of a person's personal legacy. So, again, Risha, thanks for being with us. Why do small acts of kindness have such a big emotional impact?
Because the world feels so unkind and so rushed, and we just don't have time for each other. You know, we have so many things going on in our own lives, and I completely understand that, especially in this season of my life. But people are so isolated. There are so many things happening where, you know, someone is just sitting in their house and maybe they're playing video games, or maybe they don't have friends, or maybe they're being bullied, that you may be the only person that smiled at this person today. As I said earlier, someone could be experiencing the worst day of their life. Your smile, your hello will not fix their issue, but it will at least spread some type of kindness or some type of just being nice in someone else's life, taking the time to see how someone is doing. Even if you can't, even if they decide to share with you everything that they're going through, the fact that you took the time to listen, those things go so far. I mean, think about all of the things that we see on the news and how they always come back to someone being in isolation, someone not being able to live the life that they want to live for themselves. It comes back to not having people in their lives or people that are showing kindness, and there's no excuse for the atrocities that we see in the world. But I just think we should do a better job of being kind to people. We don't have to know people to be kind to them.
I totally agree. You said something very interesting that I want to pick up on, and it says we don't have to fix them. But some of us, Risha, are fixers. I'm guilty, as and so I don't know, I'm not, what my wife would say is I'm not very good at just sitting in the emotional moment with her. I always have to go to fixing it. So, yeah. So, and that's not good, by the way. And so help the viewers understand, if you're a fixer, what are some of the little things you can do to really help people, so that you know that you don't have to be saddled with fixing other people's problems, that they maybe just being there is important.
And I will say, and this is a complete generalization, and in my experience, that is a male thing, right? That is truly
Very possible.
Yeah, to want to fix it. One of my best friends, that is him. He wants to fix it. If something is going wrong, if I'm having a bad day, he'll call repeatedly. What do I need to do? What needs to happen? And sometimes all that needs to happen is conversation, is listening without judgment, is listening without having an answer. And I can be guilty of that as well, even with my partner. And so sometimes she'll say, I just need you to listen. And it's really important to, because sometimes you don't have the answer, right? There are things out there that we don't have the answer for, but just holding somebody, listening to what they're saying, and acknowledging that experience can be enough. When I'm unsure, I also will ask, is there anything that you need from me? Is there anything that I can say, or do you mind if I share this? Just came to me. And sometimes that person will say no, and you have to be okay and get your ego out of the way and say, okay, I'm just here.
That's great.
Yeah, we all want to offer this advice, which sometimes can be pretty unhelpful.
Right. We have to sometimes be careful when we go to fix it, because our idea of fixing it may not be the kindest thing we can do. Yeah, guilty. So just we were talking about authenticity, right? So yeah. So I am sensing that we have this cultural shift. We have this authenticity. We have the real you showing up. I bet when you're working with groups, you hear that, I used to come to work with a lot of anxiety, and now I come and I really enjoy myself. And share with our audience just a little of the transforming ways you've heard from people and how their lives have changed by just, as you say, putting down the BS. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that I will never forget is after a speech. And, I worked in the DEI space for quite a while. And so within that space, of course, there are a lot of things that people don't want to hear and that make people uncomfortable. And so I've become really great at the art of disarming people in the beginning of my keynotes. And this woman came up to me afterwards and she said, I walked in here closed-minded, but I'm being a changed person, completely open-minded, to try to understand more about me and the people around me. And that was one of the best testimonials that I've had. And I've had a few different ones like that. But the fact that someone said, I walked in here closed-minded, I didn't want to hear this.
Right.
Here we go with this stuff again. And I really try to focus in on not telling people you're racist, you're homophobic, you're transphobic, I don't say any of those things. what I say is that when we come into this world, we're born into what I call a biosphere, which consists of our friends and family. It consists of the religion we practice. It consists of the media we consume, the government we live under, the colleges and universities that we chose, or the schools that we went to. And what happens is all of these things download images and experiences onto us mentally. And so we begin to live through those experiences. And a lot of times we form opinions about people and things, and we don't have any lived experience with those people or those things. And so if you'll ask yourself, what's true for me? If you'll ask yourself, could my thinking be wrong? You will see that sometimes what you've been taught to be true, it may have been true for that situation. It may have been true for that person, but it does not mean that it's true for you. And it's really difficult to do because a lot of these things we learn from our families, who we trust, whom we love, from the institutions that we went to, whom we trust, whom we love, the religion that we practice. But those things it doesn't automatically mean that it's true or that it's a correct experience for you. And that's the thing of it is finding what it is for you. I always talk about growing up with my grandmother, who, was a Black woman born in 1923, Oklahoma. So there were a lot of things that she experienced as a Black woman that led her to want to teach her kids and grandkids how to navigate in a world that wasn't built for them. Well, in teaching that, I also learned bias and mistrust of white people that I had to work through. And being able to work through that, my grandmother, she loved everybody. And I know that if she were here, she would say, I never would have wanted to teach you anything negative, but she was trying to teach me as a way to protect me. But it became my job to say, well, you know what? I know a lot of really cool white people. And so while that may have happened to grandma, and I respect that story and I respect what I've learned and her experience, it did not happen to me. So let me treat everybody for how it is that they're treating me.
Yeah. And that's spot on. I think a lot of us, even as we walk down the street, if we choose to look at the people we're passing as we're walking down the sidewalk, each person we pass, we immediately put a little story in our head, a little movie reel starts to play. And, depending on what they look like, how they're dressed, what race they are, all of these things, we automatically think that the movie playing in our head is the correct movie, when indeed these are just people who are looking at us, probably saying, man, that guy, I don't know what he was thinking when he got dressed this morning, but they're playing their own movie, right? So I can identify so well with your idea of changing the culture by looking at people for who they are and just being authentic. And I find myself often trying to fight against shutting the movie down and saying to myself, time out, don't play the movie until you know the movie of the person and getting to know the person.
Exactly. Yeah. It just, we just feel like we don't have time. We'd rather go with the movie that's already playing. And yeah, you have to push rewind on that. We do.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. So, kindness. We're going to wrap up this section with the concept of kindness. And, how do you engage people to inspire kindness? Kindness is, people are like, I'm nice to everybody. Well, are you though? Like, what does kindness look like? What are some of them little things that show genuineness in that arena?
Back to some of the things that I was saying earlier, smiling, asking people about their day, asking people about their kids or whatever it is that maybe I'm sorry. Maybe it's something that you've seen on their desk. It's super important to get outside of yourself. I mean, I'm a rush around some days and I don't have time to even eat, much less try to say hello and be kind to somebody. But an opportunity will always present itself for you to show kindness. And it doesn't take a lot. And like I said earlier, sometimes people won't respond back. So you have to get out of your head and say, this was for me to show kindness. I don't have to be mad because they didn't show kindness back. which I'm guilty of, right? Because I think if I say hello, the least you can do is say hello back. But again, I don't know what's going on in that person's life. So being able to just smile and say hello as I'm walking down the trail or running into somebody in a parking lot, I can do those things. Kindness is letting people in traffic. People.
No, that's a hard one for me. Oh boy.
It's a hard one. I know. I know. I can be guilty, but I always try to say to myself, well, I remember what it felt like when somebody didn't let me in.
That's right.
And that's the thing. If you can really go back to your BS, and because this is something I've been working on for so long, it's easy for me to recognize. So I know it doesn't necessarily mean it goes away, but it means that you are cognizant of it. And when it's happening, you can put a stop to it. You can a behavioral change in that moment.
And you said it so well. When we put ourselves out there, let's make the putting ourselves out there the thing, not put ourselves out there because we're expecting something back, because that's where the hurt, that's where the fail, that's where the missing element comes in. We'll make the outward gesture of kindness be the thing. If you get something in return, that's gravy on the mashed potatoes, right? The mashed potatoes were good anyway.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I love the way you put that. It certainly is. I mean, you just keep it moving. You did your part.
That's right.
That's all you can control. And I tell people all the time, we all want to control so many different things about the world and our families and all these things. The only thing you 100% are in control of is yourself. So do what you can do and keep it moving.
Perfect. Well, up next, Risha helps us look inward with what she calls the mirror moment. Oh, this scares me already. The art of seeing yourself clearly so that you can connect deeply with others. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Your Life and Legacy. Don't miss a second of this show or any of your Now Media TV favorites, streaming live and on demand wherever and whenever you want. Grab the free Now Media TV app on Roku or iOS and enjoy instant access to our lineup of bilingual programs, both in English and Spanish. Prefer to podcast? Listen to Your Life and Legacy anytime on nowmedia.tv. Covering business, breaking news, lifestyle, culture, and more, Now Media TV is available 24/7, so the stories you care about are always within reach. Welcome back. We're closing today's episode with Risha Grant, diving into something she calls the mirror moment. That brave pause when we're stopping to look outward for change and start looking inward. Because the truth is that real legacy, it begins with self-awareness. This final segment helps viewers understand about self-reflection and accountability and how that's key to transforming relationships, leadership, and the culture they create. Risha, this mirror moment. Truth be known, I joke around a lot because I like looking in the mirror and I'm like, here it is. But that's not what you're talking about. Tell us what you mean by the mirror moment.
It is when you say you're upset at somebody else, right? Because they didn't react in the way that you wanted them to, or maybe they didn't do what you thought they should have done. If you'll always look at yourself first and always look at first how you treat yourself, because I think how you treat yourself is a true indication of how you're going to treat other people. If you don't have compassion for you, if you don't have empathy for you, you may not have as much for the next person. If you're not living out the life that you want for yourself, you may not want to allow somebody else to live the life that they want for themselves. So what is it in you that you can see and the changes that you need to make? Because again, the only thing you can control is you. The only change you can create is within you. And then you project that outward so that people get to show up as who they are as well.
I understand it. I got it. This mirror moment. I get it. Wait. I mean, I can put the perfect story to this, right? Because I'm that morning person, right? And if I'm up at 6:30 in the morning and I think I need to text you and, because I have this brilliant idea and I text you and I don't get feedback at 6:30 in the morning and I'm sitting there stewing over why the three little dots aren't coming up, I shouldn't be getting mad at you. I should be having that mirror moment, right? I should be saying, well, wait a minute. Who said that my idea at 6:30 in the morning was the thing that we need to focus on right now? I get it.
Exactly. They may be getting kids ready for school, right? At 6:30
Absolutely.
in the morning. So,
Or maybe they just don't want to talk to me.
and yeah, and there's that. They just don't want to talk to you. But then come 7 o'clock at night, you get that text back.
That's
And
right.
it's nothing that you were imagining in your head. They didn't like my idea, all the things that we tell ourselves that are negative. And
That
you hear
story.
the person, they're like, that was amazing. Sorry it took me so long to get back to you. I had a crazy day. And so we make up stories in our head and then we project them on to other people.
We do. Yes. So I love your mirror moment. I almost think I need that little sign in my office or a bumper sticker. So what are some of the blind spots that help people recognize? What are really the blind spots that people need to recognize so they treat others better?
I think those blind spots come in small ways where people will tell you. They may say, hey, I didn't like that you said this, or I don't like that you keep doing this thing. And what I've learned in my work is that most people get offended by that. If you try to tell someone, hey, you're showing bias toward this other person, or you keep talking about this person's weight, or maybe they're making a joke out of it, but you have to be able to receive that feedback and say, ooh, like I'll give you a perfect example. When people started using pronouns, right? She, her, hers, him, and they, and all of that. For me, even though I'm a really open person, I kept thinking, what does it matter? Just tell me, here's my name, call me by my name. And a person said to me, but if you can use those pronouns, you can make that person feel seen. And I heard a quote that said the worst thing you can do to a person is make them invisible. So that instantly turned for me into that is a
mirror
small
moment.
thing. Yeah, there's a small thing I can do to make somebody else feel seen. I'm good with that. I'm good with that. And I know that so many people feel unseen and unheard and undervalued, that if I can say that and that's going to make you feel something positive, it's not going to hurt me to say it.
So I hear a couple of things in that, really. I'm sorry to cut you off. Because I would have been with you, I would have been like, well, the authentic is not in the pronoun, but the authentic is in the person. However, to that person, to be seen was in their pronouns. And so now, of course, my brain is all over the place right now, thinking and unpacking all this, and I'm saying to myself, now, if they need to be seen through their pronouns, are they really being authentic, or are there layers of that onion need to be unpeeled? See what I just did there? I'm going into fix-it mode in your own story, in your story. Oh my goodness, I got a lot of work to do on me. Holy cow!
But when people, depending on how they present, you may not know that they want to be she, her, and hers. You may get that wrong. So if someone gives you their pronouns, you don't have to worry about offending them. And it's nothing for you to be inclusive of that. It takes 2 seconds, right? Now, when people ask me about my pronouns, I can give them to them, but I will also say, you know what, don't worry about it. Just call me Risha.
Yeah, that's not important to you.
That's what I prefer. So, it's not, it's a change, and it does take a minute for your brain to catch up there. But when you actively work on it, you'll get that right.
I think you just transition perfectly into where I want to go next, which is the pause. So somebody once said, and I've adopted this saying for myself, when you hear something from me, it's the first time I'm hearing it too. And so that's what us talkers do. We don't think much before we speak. Guilty. So, but I'm sensing that pausing when you're with somebody and first trying to not be about you, but recognizing who they are. How does really taking that moment help people and ultimately shift the culture within companies?
I think that's everything. We call it taking a beat in the speaking world. And even when you're on stage and, your brain's running quicker than your mouth and you're trying to think of what comes next, right? What was I going to say next? When you take that beat or you take that pause, it just gives your brain time, your mouth time to catch up with your brain and remember that point that you wanted to make. And you're right, it works just as well in conversation, especially when you're talking to someone who does have a different lifestyle. And maybe there are some things that you haven't experienced yourself. So being able to take that beat and even honestly saying to that person, you know what? I don't quite understand that. Do you mind explaining it to me, in layman's terms? Or do you mind helping me understand it better? Now, the thing is not to get offended again when someone says, well, I'd rather you go research it on your own. I don't want to be the person to explain it to you. Because some people will say that to you. But the other people that spend the time to help you learn something new. I think I will tell people all the time, I know you might not want to explain this to me, and that's fine if you don't. But I'd love to hear from you because you are living this and I'm not, and I don't understand it.
Do people actually take the time to unpack it for you? I would think of it really. Wow.
Yeah, there are people that, especially in the work that I've done for 27 years, that they're tired of explaining it.
That makes sense.
They're just tired because, and I get it to some degree. It almost became something, especially 2020 through 2022, where you are constantly really reliving trauma and pain and the things that have been hurtful throughout your life. So people started to say, hey, go do some research on your own and then let's have a conversation, because that's the other thing. There's so much to learn, and this is my experience, but you can go learn what's true and what's real, and we can have a better conversation. So yeah, I'm not one of those people, but I do know people that are like that. And they don't want to take the time to explain it to you because you don't want to take the time to learn about it. So, half a dozen one way or other. I'm for talking to people, but some people are not.
No, and I get your point 100% that some people, it's not that they really don't want to talk to you about it. It's they're just beat up. They're exhausted. They've had to explain it so many times that, you're the one person they're like, I need a break. It's not going to be now. So I get that.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And that you brought up a good point. If you can say to a person, not right now, can we talk about this next week? I don't have the energy to talk about it. And what I've learned is that a lot of people really get offended by those kinds of things. And that's why I say we have to step outside of our own BS, because you don't know how many times that person has to tell that story in one day.
Right.
So it really is about giving people the space and time and making sure that you do come back. Though if you tell somebody, I'd love to have this conversation with you, but not right now, but making sure that you follow up and have that conversation.
That'll mean a lot to them, guaranteed. Risha, this has been so insightful. Remind our viewers again where they can go to connect with your book, your speaking, and all your engagements.
Definitely. If you are trying to find anything Risha Grant, that's all you have to put in is Risha Grant. And I have a website, rishagrant.com. You're going to find me on every social media platform out there. And now it might not be kept up to date. I'm not a big social media person, but you can find me out there, and my books are on Amazon.
Risha, thank you for reminding us that legacy isn't about titles or success. It's about how we treat people, how we show up, and how we grow from the inside out. To our viewers, remember your culture begins with you. The way you lead, speak, and love every day shapes the legacy you leave behind. I'm Christopher Nudo, and this has been Your Life and Legacy, where we help you live intentionally lead compassionately, and leave a legacy that lasts. See you next time.